Mm.
Hello. Morning all. Can you hear me? Yeah, nice. Just waiting for these lads to get here. Morning, everybody. Afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Morning, Tyler. How's New York, mate?
Hot and lovely.
Hot. Yeah. What is it now? May. You're pushing 80 degrees up there now.
Yep. Yeah, it's 85
concrete.
yesterday.
Too hot for me, mate.
Yeah. That's good.
Good, man. I'm talking to you this afternoon, aren't I?
Yeah, we got a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Good. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. All right. Whereabouts you live in? You did say downtown somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'm down in Fidei right now,
He
but
was talking.
I'm looking for spots in East Village.
Oh, cool. Yeah, nice.
I actually live in a building that's
That'll be fun, man. Oh, really? That's cool.
33 Gold Street.
Oh, yes. I think I remember that. Yeah. I like that area. It's coming back to life there too now, right? It's
awesome.
Pretty
the seaport.
Remarkable. That's cool. Love it. Yeah, we used to Celia and I met around there. We worked there for years. It's a cool part of the city. It feels like a little town in itself down there. It's great.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I think what is it? 8 a.m. Wait for these boys to show up. But this is going to be an interesting chat, I think, because we typically do like pure internet businesses on these calls when we have someone in, but this one is direct to consumer coffee brand that I'm actually drinking right now. So Celia set this up. We've been buying coffee from these guys for a couple months, and we reached out and asked them about how they're doing it, and they're building it part-time, I believe. They both work full-time. They're building a brand on the side, and it's a great product. And we want to get a bit of the backstory. That might be. Yeah. Hey, mate. How
Hey
you
guys,
doing?
good morning. I'm good. How's everyone else?
Morning, mate. Good, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to change your name. Some reason, every time we get someone on, it logs in as Celia.
Sure.
Alvaro or James?
James.
James, nice to meet you,
You too.
James. All right. So we do these. Is Alvaro joining as well?
Yeah, he should be in a second. I was just on with him.
All right, great. Perfect. I'll wait a second until he shows up. No, give the lowdown. Whereabouts are you based, mate?
I'm in Brooklyn, actually. Just moved back. I was living in Detroit for about 2 years, which is sort of how I know Alvaro, and moved back a few weeks ago. Yeah.
I was gonna guess with that little loft structure in the back there.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Where in Brooklyn?
Sort of like Williamsburg area by the Williamsburg Bridge, right on the water.
Very cool. Love it.
Right by Domino Park.
Right by Domino Park, exactly. I can look at it right here. Yeah, I grew up in. Are you from Brooklyn, Tyler?
No, I just moved to New York City from Seattle 2 months ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I grew up in Greenpoint, like about a mile north of here. And when I would go to school, every morning I would go across the Williamsburg Bridge. My parents would drive me. And Domino Park was like an active sugar factory. So I would go across the Williamsburg Bridge and you would see like barges of sugar, huge mounds of sugar being docked and delivered at Domino Park every morning. Very cool.
That's badass.
And now it's just a bunch of hipsters. But
Yeah. They did a great job renovating that park. Was great. Celia and I lived in New York up until August of last year, and
okay.
It's a big weekend excursion up to Williamsburg most weekends and wander about. It's a great area.
Yeah, no, that park is really nice. Where are you now?
Nashville.
Cool.
Yeah. We just had a baby 3 months ago, so we're upsized our living quarters, maybe temporarily, but it's been a.
Congrats.
Thank you, mate. Here he is, I think. All right, I think so.
Yeah, there he
is.
Is
that you? Yeah, nice one. Morning. Well, thank you guys for doing this. Appreciate it. Alvaro, where are you based?
Miami, Florida.
Oh, nice, Miami. Popping off Miami these days, right?
Yeah, it's the new San Francisco, Austin, New York. It's the new everything.
Yes, indeed. Well, appreciate you guys doing this. I was just giving a little bit of background before you dropped on. We normally do like internet native businesses, internet products, and I believe this is the first time we've spoken to direct consumer brand builders. So it's a good bit of variety for us. Is my connection working? Can you still hear me? Yeah,
yep.
Good. So this meeting actually came about through us being a customer of yours, and I don't even recall where Celia ran into this first, but I've been drinking Jibby coffee for the last probably 3 months or so now, and huge fan of the product. Think the brand is badass, and then Celia reached out, and we were honestly massively surprised that you guys are running this part-time, right? You're doing a full-time thing and you're building this brand on the side at the moment. And there just had to be a great story there. So we reached out and here we are. So we'd love to hear a bit of the backstory and then maybe get into some more of the like meat of how you're running it on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool that I think Celia found it on Think Testing.
Oh, you're right.
That would be my guess.
That's the one.
Yeah, no, it's interesting on the topic of like you guys are usually hosting digitally first companies, because when we founded this, we're like, let's try to like shift the beverage game on its head a little bit and like really go strong on the digital side. That being said, like as we've grown, a lot of our focus has shifted more and more towards retail. Like as we learned that the CBD landscape is tricky to navigate with online ads and like shopping habits, though they are shifting online, still a lot of people are just like, you just buy food products in person.
Yep. I worked with a brand a couple of years ago that had a CBD component. I just remember it being absolute nightmare to figure out the marketing strategy stuff. Would love to hear like where the product story started and like why CBD coffee too. That is because it works too. It's like I've never seen it before, and it's pretty fascinating. Different feeling you get when you drink it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the story kind of starts like where both James and I come from. So James would tell you he's been roasting coffee with his mom since he was 5 years old. His mom's a home roaster and home brewer of coffee, so he grew up around that. And I'm Cuban and Puerto Rican, so both sides of me are fighting for who loves coffee more. I grew up around like a Cuban cafetera in my kitchen, like my grandma making coffee, and I used to drink coffee when I was 9 on the way to school. So it was and Cuban espresso at that. So
wow, that's how
that was definitely it's definitely like in my upbringing. For me, it fueled more of my passions, as in it was in the background. I was making coffee when I was in high school, and I wanted to work at Starbucks, and I had a family connection at Starbucks in Spain, so I did an internship there. And then when I was in college, it's how I picked up girls. I had an espresso machine in my room, and I would tell them to come up for a nightcap, and they're like, espresso at 2 a.m. And so James, at the same time, he owned a coffee shop in Brooklyn called Devil Spit Coffee. So it was a little pop-up in Greenpoint. And for James, it's been the start of his entrepreneurial journey, at least his legit one. He had a few unlegit businesses in high school, but that definitely like it was in the background. And so for us, we both have been inspired by this thing, and it's kind of inspired our foray into business. And when I met James, we joined this fellowship called Venture for America after college. It connects young entrepreneurs to small startups across the country. So we were both trying to meet as many people as possible and kind of engage. And James and I actually shared a Vietnamese coffee together. And we got starting to talk about, like our backgrounds, what James had done in the previous years. He had built a viral online business. I thought that was awesome. And in the process, like we kept each other in mind for when we wanted to do something, and we did a few freelance work together. And then, over COVID, we were both making crazy amounts of coffee at home. I had gotten into cold brewing and different forms of cold brew. I had a French press. I just did it like free. I did it into a filter. I was just trying to test like what was the best one, and ultimately what was the most caffeinated one. So I was like trying to go for peak caffeination. And then one day I was like on a call, and I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack, and I was just like bouncing off the walls. And I was like, "Yep, that's my 6th coffee of the day. That'll do it." Wow. And yeah, James and I got started like talking on a happy hour call, and he said he was feeling the exact same way, right, James?
Yeah, I feel like 2020 especially was just like an uber stressful time for everybody. Like actually, Alvaro and I were working in different startup jobs. I was working in Detroit in an influencer marketing startup, and Alvaro in Birmingham for like a social impact. What would you call that? Social impact,
like an impact investing fund.
Yeah. And when everybody shifted to like working from home, it just shit got stressful, to be honest. And I think our relationship, especially with caffeine, got complicated, and it no longer became like fuel for like working hard. It just was like something that I just kept making, and it was making us like bounce off the walls and tweaky. So it was something that was like very core and special to us from an entrepreneurial side, but also from like just like a side passion thing that was no longer doing what we wanted it to do for us. So when Alvaro and I started talking over, I think like a Zoom happy hour, because we were in different cities, we started talking about that, and we started thinking, how could we like innovate around a product that hasn't changed in hundreds of years, right? Like coffee is coffee, and it's extremely ritualistic, and like that's awesome. Like I don't stray away from that. I'm still drinking a regular hot coffee now, in fact, but we wanted to like fix a problem that we had, or at least slowly start to like inch people into the direction where their daily habits doesn't have to change, and that they don't need to like stop drinking coffee or drink matcha or tea, that they can still enjoy coffee but feel better doing it.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting because so I was really inspired by the How I Built This episode of Impossible Foods, and by no means do I think like what we're doing is like even a drop in the ocean of what they're doing, but I think I was really inspired by the fact that he said you have to nudge people to make more like informed decisions by literally making it the exact copy of what they're currently used to doing, but better for you. So like you kind of like stuff the medicine inside the meat, like if you're like
Yeah.
And I think like that's where I was coming from, where it was like I had tried drinking decaf, I had tried doing mud water, I had tried doing matcha green tea, I had tried
What is
doing
mud?
better for
Sorry to interrupt you. What is mud water? I've never heard of that.
it's like a turmeric chai mushroom blend
Okay.
that's supposed to like mimic the experience of coffee. It's probably like the more like accurate like Impossible Foods alternative to coffee, because it is
Got
like
it.
made of different ingredients.
Got it.
But I had tried that. It was like it's a great product, like they've done something great there, but it was just not coffee enough for me. So I tried all these different products, and I think I realized like I needed a pretty close coffee to coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed coffee just feeling better, but it needs
Yeah.
to taste like great coffee, it needs to like feel like great coffee, it needs to smell like great coffee, and then maybe I'll let it feel like a little better. And it's kind of crazy, like the complicated relationship we have with coffee, where it's like if flavor, smell comes before bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, it's
Right,
true. It's
right.
true. You don't really think about the consequences of it, right? Just pouring another one, and then it's yeah.
So we saw CBD because Alvaro had a brother in the hemp space who's been in the hemp space for a while, and CBD was one of those like, I would say like hyper trendy products where there's like a lot of skepticism around, and Alvaro and I are like extremely skeptic consumers. Like on anything else, it's like we will like not believe it until we try it. So I think we brought up the idea on the call from Alvaro's brother being in the space, and we're like, all right, this might be dumb because CBD is just like they're putting it in everything. Like the other day, I saw a CBD pillowcase. Like, what is that? That might be taking it too far. But we tried it in the coffee, and it actually started to work. It actually like made the peaks and valleys go away and just give sort of a steadier energy and sort of more like a Zen energy. And you know, if you're a skeptic consumer and you try something and it works, like that's what gets rid of the skepticism.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'd say like our interest from it, like we were more looking for like alternatives that fit the bill than just like CBD. So like I was more like ideating at home with different like functional alternatives like mushrooms, chaga, turmeric, like all the trendy different alternatives, and I was just like not feeling like it was exactly what I wanted. And I was just on Reddit, and I found that some people were adding CBD to their coffee. And my brother, being like my resident like the alternative health expert in my house, like he was like, CBD and coffee, it's the best thing. And I was like, you take it? He was like, I take it every morning. And I was like, really? Like I've never noticed you do that. And I tried it, and it was a little bit slimy, I'd say. It was like a little bit earthy in flavor, but like the feeling was just right, like exactly what I thought it would be. And so I did it 5-6 more days, and then we got to James, and we're like, all right, this is it. Let's find one that like isn't slimy and gross, and let's do this.
So that's like the prototype. Were you taking like a tincture or something and just dropping it in there?
That's right.
Yep.
So then well, I guess the logical next part of the story is like you go from that to somehow having like, I mean, the direct to consumer like food just feels like a huge leap from, you know, experimenting with like tinctures in the coffee in your apartment. So can you talk a little bit about like the stages of sort of validation and getting it to the place where, you know, Celia and I are reading about it and just click a button and it shows up at the door?
Yeah, absolutely. Like COVID was a tricky time because user testing for actual product, especially a food product, is really tricky. I can't invite like 50, 100 strangers over to try a product. And so like, as much as I would love to say like we tested 500 people, we really didn't. We tested a lot. Any friends and family who would come over and give us a try. And maybe that was like 50 or 100, but it was nowhere near enough where I think people really try to go for like true market validation. But it was enough. We saw enough like of it working in the feedback that we got where we felt confident to take it to the next step. And the next step beyond like making it in your kitchen is to start working with a co-manufacturer who has like a clean facility and can do brewing at scale and canning at scale.
And I will add the caveat, like it's very important the time we were in. Like we were in peak COVID. It was May 31st, 2020, when we started thinking about this. So yeah, almost a year ago. At that time, like you couldn't go to a commercial kitchen. You couldn't go to we couldn't go to like an innovation lab. Like none of that was open. The only thing that was the only way around it was to go to a co-manufacturer and like hit their MOQ for cans. So it's kind of like we had to like brew the recipe at home. But yeah, like James, like for us, we were very foreign to this industry. So it was a lot of like watching Shark Tank and then hearing about the products, like the physical products. And they said, I work with a copacker. And I was like, I guess that's the word that I need to search on Google for.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it was a slow build. It was like, let's figure out the taste profile that we want and we made a bunch of coffee in our kitchen until we sort of like brewed the cup that we were happy with, and then sort of took those formulation sheets to, I mean, we hit up maybe 40, 50 copackers and vetted them all. A lot of them didn't want to touch CBD. One of them was just like at the perfect size for us. Like he was small but growing facilities so that we could grow with him was the intention.
Yeah,
and he led us on. Sorry.
No, yeah, sorry. I think it's really relevant for people to know. Like, so we kind of took our like project James being at an agency and like me being kind of like externally facing. We used like productivity tools a lot where I was working, and James did as well. Like I think James probably used like Monday.com or like Asana or one of those. At my company, we used Notion. And so we basically built this entire business on Notion. So when we were looking for a manufacturer, we built a spreadsheet on Notion and just wrote down every name with links, with time spoken, like with notes. And it was just kind of like, yeah, we had them all listed out, linked to our calendars on Google. And we, every day at lunch, about 12 o'clock, I would take a break from my regular job and just pick up a call with a manufacturer. And we just learned, like each call, we just asked really dumb questions. And then we heard the terms that they were using. And we just kind of like fired those terms at the next person we talked to. And it was kind of like, and we would take notes there in Notion, revise our notes. So, yeah.
What time period is this happening over?
Maybe 4 to 5 or 6 months, actually, while we're like kind of in talks with co-manufacturers. It actually started like, what's today? The 20th, probably right around this time last year is when the idea started.
Nice. And I love the brand too. The like everything you've built, the digital presence of it is so badass. The packaging. How did that stuff evolve alongside these conversations you're having to make it real? Because one of the things that we like, almost every conversation we have in these office hours is about like proof of concept, getting something to market. Like how much pre-work do you want to do before you like go and put it out and accept cash for this thing? So I'm just curious for how you balance those two exercises as well.
Albert, you want to take that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for us, like we very much subscribe to like the lean methodology. And I had learned, like I had thought, like when I build a business one day, I'm gonna build it lean. And then like you get to doing it, it's like, all right, well, I'm not good at design. So where do I go? And then you go to Fiverr and it's like, all right, well, this is not up to the quality that I want. Because I want like a crazy built brand. So then we went on Dribble and just talked to a lot of designers that we like. We found a few people, scheduled calls with them. And it's crazy in design, just the range of the people we were talking to. So we had a scope. We need logo, brand standards guide, pack design, all in one place. So we go to someone and they're like, that'll be $29,000. And we're like, okay, so that's definitely that's not like, that's way too much, but like,
Yep.
how far can we go? So we talked to some people in different parts of the US, and then finally we stumbled on a freelancer in Melbourne, Australia. So we would take calls with him at like 10 p.m. He would just be waking up, and we'd like talk to him, and he was like, yeah, I got a space right now, like, I think we could do this, I think that we can make this work. And we were just working with him, just talking on evenings, and it came out to like under $1,000 for the full scope of work.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think
too.
it's important also to note, like, Albert and I had a lot of vision going into it that I think like really helped push. Nick Edlin was the designer. It was awesome to work with. Like, we knew that we
Shout out
wanted to
Nick.
have, shout out Nick, yeah. That we knew that we wanted to make a brand that was really familiar and approachable, and that wasn't super in your face with the whole CBD thing, because like we definitely understand that. I think depending on who we talk to, you know, some people might find it gimmicky because it's the first time that they're seeing a product like this, and like, you know, the same like CBD pillowcase thing. It's like, am I just putting CBD in everything? So we wanted something that was like familiar and a little bit like nostalgic, because it has this like core of it being coffee and this like super ritualistic kind of like food product that everybody drinks almost every day. I think like the number one or number two commodity in the world. And we wanted to have something approachable. So I think having like a big vision of what we wanted before we went to the designer was a huge help in just like getting the right thing.
100%. I mean, you guys did a great job. How was this the same person that built the web infrastructure, or was that somebody else that you brought in to build that?
That
would be
like
James right now.
95% me. I've built a few other websites
Respect.
before. It's, you know, it's like on Shopify, but there's a lot of just like things hacked together that the Shopify templates don't really want you to do. But I was sort of like learning CSS and a little HTML as I went.
Looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like Google Meet, screen share, like me telling James, I don't like that photo there, I don't like this one there. So it's just like him doing the actual work and me doing the critiquing.
Yeah.
No, but it was really fun. I love building the website stuff. And it's, you know, like we launched in February, and just every month I feel like we have a better grasp on the brand, and it evolves a little bit, and I'll go into the website and like we'll change up a page or edit a page. And I think there's still like a lot to be done in our like ultimate vision of what this website will look like and what the whole brand looks like in general. But sort of as like a two-man, almost part-time team, we just have to do things one at a time. And like, even if the website's not perfect in our mind, like we do it and go on to the next step, and then come back, like learn a little bit and come back.
This does not look like a two-person business. It's incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
Well, we just onboarded a community manager. Her name's Valeria, and she lives in Peru. And we also onboarded a sales manager here in Miami. He's my third cousin, and I reconnected with him recently because he's my UPS rep, and he's the man. So we're now a team of 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as the process went on, so we were working with a designer. With each like different iteration of the pack design, I would like print out a piece of paper, get one of those big kombucha bottles, like Kavita, drink all of it, and then fill it with the cold brew I was making at home with CBD. I would close it up, wrap around like the paper label on it, and just like sit there looking at it, like take a sip from it, be like, At the time, our company was called Pacho, and I'd be like, Pacho's not too bad. And so I would take it to my local gourmet grocery store, and I just like put it exactly where I wanted it to go, and I'd be like, cool, like that's where we'll be. And we had a few like early supporters. Like I had some friends that would text me like on a weekly basis, like, how's Pacho doing? How's Pacho doing? Or like, yeah, how's Jibby doing? How's Jibby doing? And he'd be like, any news, like anything happened, you found a manufacturer yet? They was like so pumped. And so when we got to the point where we had like a label, I would just like bring them the bottle, and I just like watch them drink it, and they're like, And it was kind of like, I think in a long stretch of not being able to get to market, like in the stretch from ideation to get to market, you need to give yourself those like little like victories. And so like once you have like the design, like just start visualizing your product.
That's great advice. Is what were the, like, if you could retroactively think of a few of the like big inflection points in the business once you have the, you know, the packaging ready to go and the co-packing facility set up, essentially you're ready to start shipping stuff, the like go to market beyond your friends and family. Can you talk a little bit about that and the moments in there that made like huge differences?
Yeah, I mean,
James, you want to tell Ice Cube story?
Yeah, well, one big inflection point was certainly we wanted to launch in, I think, like November or December. We ended up launching in February, but we wanted to launch earlier than that. And you know, this is like eight months of work. I actually quit my previous job to work on this full time. 8 months of work, a lot of like our own personal savings being put into the business. And when we told our co-packer the specs and that he was gonna brew it, I think our first run was like 4,000 something cans and a bunch of the box coffee also. And we're like super nervous and super excited to get this. And we actually already started taking pre-orders from our friends and family and like did, I don't know, like $10,000 in pre-orders from just our own little network. And we are expecting the coffee to come in November. I get a call from our co-manufacturer, and he's like, dude, I'm so sorry. There was a huge winter storm. Everything froze. Your coffee is a giant ice cube right now. And he's like, my tanks might be shot. I don't know what we could do about this. I'll call you back. And Alvaro and I called Alvaro and we're like, oh, fuck. Like
the wild thing was, it was the day before we had scheduled a freight truck to come pick it up.
Oh man.
So it was like, yeah, the day before we were gonna get the coffee, come down, like launch. And I think it's worth noting that it wasn't the first time that something happened. So his one of his team members, he has like 3 team members on the floor, working like different co-packing jobs. And because he mainly runs his own coffee operation, and he co-packs. In COVID, I guess he expanded his business. So he has 3 people in his staff that do co-packing work, and one of them got COVID. And with one person getting COVID, he didn't know who else was going to get COVID, so they shut down. Then like they waited for 2 weeks and he was still testing positive. The other guy got COVID. So there was like delay after delay after delay, culminating with the 10,000 pound ice cube.
Yeah.
Which
yeah. I mean, we didn't know what to do when he gave us the ice. We thought about pivoting to popsicles because we had no idea what. And he was like, I don't know how long is this going to take to thaw. If it thaws, it might lose some like flavor integrity. And at the end of the day, Alvaro and I were just like bit the bullet, and we're like, all right, we don't want our first batch of product to have any loss of flavor integrity, and we opted to start the whole process over again. And that means re-roasting, re-importing beans, re-roasting beans, resting them again for another 21 days, and then brewing again. So it pushed everything way back, and we ended up not actually launching and shipping until February. But I think that's just like a lesson learned. You got to be expecting those things, and especially in manufacturing, when things are out of your control, you have to build in that timeline.
And if you already have hundreds of customers, like for us, we had like 2 strategies we could do. We could just like wait for them to complain that they'd been waiting for a while, even though a lot of them ordered it as like gifts to their friends for Christmas. And it was the only gift that they planned on giving their friends. So it was like friend did not get a Christmas gift. So I think like we had 2 forks, or there was a fork in the road. We could just like wait for someone to complain and then just talk to that person individually, or talk to the hundreds of people for the few that might complain. And so that's what we did. Like every few weeks we would just communicate, like pour our heart out. And just like, so we had a lot of them over text. So we would send an SMS campaign. And once we got a little closer and there was still delays, like we would like individually text everyone, and just like decided to, from the beginning, like treat everyone as we're our friend. And it's kind of continued on. It's like that was like, we got more reactions from that than we got about the coffee. And so that's kind of continued on, like as when we launched, as a way to like win back their trust of all our pre-order customers. I just like both James and I wrote notes to all of them, because in most cases they were all our friends.
Yeah, I mean, there was a handwritten note in our first order, and has been since we've been ordering it, which is just, it's like, we talk about this all the time. It's like these things that just feel 100 times more impactful than anything else, because nobody else is doing it. Just the small effort you put into personalizing something is just enormous.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, exactly what you said. Like, I got so many, we got so many things from customers about that. And I think, like, going back to like that lean methodology, like a lot of people think, I can't afford custom mailers, I can't afford to put 2 stickers in every box, or I can't afford to put in a tote bag on their second order. But you can afford writing a note. Like, at the end of the day, that's just all you have to offer. And it's like, all right, the shittier, like, we can afford it, the longer the note, which was like in the beginning, like, we could only now we're getting at the point where, like, we put in 2 stickers, we have custom tape. So yeah,
There's still a note in just about every order though.
yeah, I've started doing like bubble text, because people love the bubble text.
Yeah, it's good.
My calligraphy skills have gotten a little better, even though I was really tired when I was writing down your names last time. So it was like, that was pretty shoddy.
That's great, man. So where's the Copacker located?
That's in the Midwest.
Okay.
And then everything gets actually shipped over to the East Coast. Alvaro and I, just by nature of us building this during COVID, everybody is just like sprawled across. All of our partners are sprawled across, to be honest, the world.
Yeah.
I'm in New York. Alvaro's down in Miami. We targeted our retail launch mostly in Miami because it's a really good cold coffee market, being that it's always hot and sunny.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. A big point about a copacker is, traditionally when someone's working with a copacker, you want them to be nearby so that you can visit the factory or visit the facility. So a big rule of thumb is like if you can afford like the cheapest option, the closest option, and the smallest minimum order, go with the closest and the smallest minimum order.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for us, like, we couldn't go visit the one that was in our backyard anyway. So we just went with the best option, and we have a partner that we can roast on site, do fresh roasted coffee that doesn't need to travel, and that immediately gets brewed. And that the same facility also uses like every copacker uses different things. Some use PET bottles, some use cans, some use bags, some use big paper carton bottles, like we're seeing with now, like Chobani released a coffee, and it's in that kind of like that water, the new Hello Water or whatever, boxed water. So everyone works with different product offerings. And so we found one that worked with the size can we could use, roasted on site, brewed on site, and was just all around a good guy. So we're like, let's go with him. The other perk is that the Midwest just has great water, and coffee is as simple as water, time, and coffee.
Yeah. But so you're getting 4,000 cans shipped to the East Coast, and then you store them in a facility somewhere, and you're hand mailing them yourselves right now, right? There's no 3PL.
Yep.
Yeah. I work in the facility in the mornings that I'm storing at. It's my uncle's warehouse, and I use a little space, and it's part of the perk of working with him part-time.
Yeah, that's great. How'd the thing testing thing come about? That happened organically?
Yeah, that was totally organic. I think they just reached out to us. I actually hadn't heard of thing testing, and like, for us, given that we can't run Facebook ads or Google ads, and like all of the traditional sort of like advertising outlets aren't available to us, like, we have been super focused on these like content sites like thing testing or blogs, or we just started affiliate marketing with a small agency in LA. So those things really do move the needle for us. And I think we got a bunch of new like actual subscriber customers from the thing testing article. And for us, like, the lifeline of the business is 100% the people who are like signed up to subscribe and who are like loyal customers. Like those are the customers that we love, and like that mean a lot to us.
Yeah, I can't remember who said this, but it's like, addictions are a good business.
Yeah, exactly.
The best
Yeah.
business model there is. Like the yeah, your point about coffee just being one of the biggest commodities on the planet. I don't know, for whatever reason, even though I drink like 3-4 cups a day some days, it's like, oh, you don't really think about that as you know, at that scale, but it is like a perfect subscription product. It's fascinating. I haven't really, I don't know, maybe I'm just not like, I'm not big into coffee as it is, but the model feels fresh. Like this, is this something that you saw someone else doing well on the subscription side in coffee? Or I think that, like, obviously the product is innovative and like tastes great and works, but there's also something about the way you chose to is every customer subscriber, or like how does that split work?
No, not every customer. This is actually an interesting, like, sort of maybe not dilemma, but interesting thing for us, in that most coffee companies who are doing subscriptions, or most beverage companies, don't ship liquid. It's really expensive to ship liquid, right? It's heavy as hell.
Yeah.
The way that it works for us from like a economic standpoint is that we have like a relatively high price point product, given that it's either around $5.50 a can. So it costs the same amount to ship a 12-pack of LaCroix for $1 each as it costs us to ship a $5.50 per can product. So for us, the subscription model and the D2C model actually does work. And that's probably why you don't see it that much. It's because other beverage products aren't doing shipping because they just can't afford it.
And the CBD regulatory stuff, do you see that lifting, or is anything changing there? It does feel to me like you can, I don't know, I'd be curious for how you're thinking about like what critical mass is in terms of distribution, because like the economics of a D2C business, like do you need to have a like paid acquisition vehicle at a certain point that has some level of predictability? How do you think about like forecasting that stuff out?
Yeah, no, that's 100% a good point. I mean, because we're not able to run ads, like all of our data just comes from the analytics on our site, but it's really, really hard to put a customer acquisition cost on things when we're getting a lot of our traffic from like organic blogs that don't really have like perfect tracking that we can check out, or even like when we're doing influencer stuff on Instagram, like it's just hard to track attribute sales. So that has definitely been a tricky one for us. But from a CBD regulatory landscape, like we see things easing up. Just like marijuana in New York, for example, was just legalized, and I think that's just kind of the first step. People are looking more at marijuana, and CBD will follow. FDA has sort of dropped the ball in terms of like regulatory guidelines. Like they just haven't really made strong statements on it, so it's a bit of a fuzzy space. The people who I think are going to come out on top are the ones who are doing things right and as transparent as possible. So like we release all of our like lab testings on the website, and a lot of companies just don't even do that, which is ridiculous.
No, I think it's worth noting. It's like a lot of it is kind of predicting where it'll go, and you kind of have to build the package for like whenever regulations do come into effect. So I think for us, like we just kind of like got together and thought about, all right, like where is it more likely to go? Like right now, you go into your gas station and there's a few different CBD companies that they all use different methods of saying what's inside the can or the tincture bottle. Some say 3,000, which is the total amount of CBD in it. Some say 30, which is the serving amount. Some say CBD, some say hemp oil, some say broad spectrum hemp extract, some say hemp complex. And there's all these definitions and they all mean something. But even within CBD, there's CBD isolate, broad spectrum CBD, full spectrum CBD. So I think like for us, it was like, all right, if we have CBD, we have CBD. If we decide to add CBG or another cannabinoid, we have CBG and another cannabinoid. But if we're putting 25 milligrams of CBD, that's what it is. And then, so that was really important for us from the get-go. Another thing was, all right, if we have 25 milligrams of CBD, I want you to call me on my Carfax. And so we like invite people to like scan our QR code on our can, and that'll link them to our lab sheets. Because at the end of the day, we want the industry and most consumers to trust this product. and we're doing a lot of the legwork to educate them, and we're happy to do it, but we want people to understand that this is a good functional ingredient when done correctly. I think a lot of times when people say CBD doesn't work, you ask them what they tried and they're like, oh, I got this tincture bottle at the mobile station. It says 420 Kush Zaddy, and it's like blazing CBD. And it's like, yeah, of course that didn't work. You got sold snake oil, man. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing for us, is just to kind of like treat it as if it's caffeine or anything.
And is that your brother's like depth of knowledge in that space that like brought you up to speed there? Because it does feel like it just feels like a bottomless pit of like what works, what doesn't, what is an active ingredient, what has this effect versus that effect. Do you think that provided an edge, like a significant edge there, the subject matter knowledge? Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, CBD users and consumers are like vegans. They don't shut up about it. My brother he's been telling me about CBD for 3 years, just as he's been telling me about crypto. I wish I'd heard earlier, but I think definitely like, it's about talking to the people that like use the product. For him, he believes that other cannabinoids work together in an entourage effect. So he consumes a little bit of THC, a little bit of CBG, CBN, because that makes them more potent together. And I think that's totally fair in a CBD, and I wholeheartedly agree with him now that I've become a CBD user. But it's worth noting that our product is not a way to consume CBD. It's a better way of drinking coffee. CBD happens to get us there. So if you want to start consuming CBD for your anxiety, sleep, or pain related needs, I definitely recommend broad spectrum CBD. And I have a whole group of providers that do a great job in putting forth a great product. But yeah, it's worth noting, our product is a better way of drinking coffee, not a way of consuming CBD.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's a great focus. And like you said earlier on, a product that emerged from a problem you're experiencing, which tends to be, the overlapping quality in anything that gets traction, is like somebody was legitimately experiencing a problem and they can talk about it very convincingly and compellingly because they've experienced it for months and months on end. And like there was countless times where I was like rattling around the 500 square foot apartment in Brooklyn on 6 cups of coffee. I haven't been outside for 10 days. It's like, this is a problem. So this stuff is incredible. So I definitely recommend everybody here check it out as well.
Thanks, Jack.
We got a couple questions. So I'm going to run through a few questions if that's good with you guys.
Absolutely.
All right. We talked a little bit about the global team that you have, like your distributed workforce, you're planning across like time zones, all these different things. You spoke a little bit about that, project management tools, Notion. You still using Notion, you said? Notion
every single day.
Here.
Love it. Literally one of the best tools we've ever come across. I would say like our entire business organization of our business is in Notion. And now that we're also onboarding new team members, everybody's hopping on there, and like that's how we communicate and share information and success and KPIs and all that. It's all in Notion. We actually reached out to them. I remember when we were first starting the business, we we're like, let's try to get press anywhere we can. And we tried to sell this story of like, hey, we're 2 young entrepreneurs starting a business during COVID. Like we couldn't have done that without Notion. And we tried to get them on, but they didn't end up publishing anything. But I think it's a great idea still.
Matt, I think you should just keep on that, because I think it's like the Notion community is kind of ravenously passionate, and I think there's huge overlap between people that use that product and people that drink coffee and sit in front of their computer all day. So
yeah. Right. Good point.
All right, next one is the deal structure with the Copacker. Can you speak a little bit about that? Like I think you said you did a 4,000 can run to begin with. How does that work longer term?
I mean, co-packing is one of those things where like like you're not a client of theirs, you're very much a partner of theirs, and your success is pegged to each other. So I think he the guy that we started working with took a little bit of a chance on us, given that we were both super young and unexperienced in like the canned beverage world. And I think he knew that if he started with a low MOQ for us, then, and if we had some success, we would just keep coming back for more. Like, he does a fantastic job, and like, there's no reason that we should be looking other places for other co-packers. So, and I think that's just how that kind of like world works. It's very relationship based and loyal. There's a lot of loyalty in it. So, I mean, as far as the structure, I've heard of other companies who are brand new who can't hit MOQs try to like even offer equity to their co-packers. We didn't end up doing that because we had some cash to pay for it. But I think that's a really good concept because it just further pegs your success to each other. It helps you get more favorable queue time. Like if you need an emergency run of product, he or she will get you in the front of the line because they have an even stronger stake in your success.
Yeah, I often hear like you have to find out what someone needs, and at the end of the day, like in 2020, in the summer of 2020, when everyone was in lockdown, like you probably didn't have a lot of new clients.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we were talking from that perspective, but even then we were talking to some people that were just like, nope, I'm not gonna go lower than 15,000. And they were just like, all right, like it's kind of like we knew very much like we wanted to do this with the budget that we had. I think like in that process though, yeah, you have to be very careful that we were very careful with our contract to make sure that we own the IP, and that we also understood the IP. So nothing about what we do is proprietary, but at the same time, we can do it in our house if we wanted to. So I think that's very important. As part of the process, yeah, also like trying to find someone that can do everything in house was huge for us, because even though we pay a lot in shipping, right, to get it from the Midwest to Miami, we only do that once. So.
Right. Yeah, we don't have to ship coffee that gets brewed in one place to get canned in another place, and yada yada. That's a big help.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, this goes without saying, just like we work with an all-around great guy, and I think that was something like when you're talking to 50 people, you can really discern who really like speaks to you. Like we stayed on talking about things, and we would just like joke and banter. Like the banter is great with him.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly underrated, right? Just the relationship you have with someone like that. You're essentially, you said it, James, like they're a partner in the business, like doesn't run without them. So it's painful to talk to them. That doesn't make your life any easier either. We got a couple of questions. I'm going to group these two. The biggest obstacle and advice that you got that you wish you ignored, or some advice that you ignored that actually helped you succeed?
I would say I remember one of the first pieces of advice that we got when we were deciding whether we wanted to get into this business or not. We spoke to the founder of a pretty big beverage company who does a canned high caffeinated tea, and his advice was, don't get into this business. He said it's really, really hard and costs a lot of money, and these things have been proven to be true. But I'm really happy that we didn't take the advice and not get into it. It's because it's been a fun ride, and though we've only been launched for 3 months, I mean, we're just seeing small steps of marginal improvements in our customer base and the retail accounts that we have open, and like building up, and I feel strong about it.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, and then I think another thing that was really like key to our success, or whatever you call what we're currently doing, is making like the entrepreneurial journey. You can like view it through different lenses. Someone once told me that it's, as opposed to like making a mountain out of a molehill, it's making a molehill out of a mountain. Yeah. Like just kind of dissecting it and thinking, all right, I can do this, and kind of like putting yourself in the shoes of other people that have. So I do that like religiously, and that every day I'm listening to Founders Journal or How I Built This, or like, yeah, colloquial conversations like TEDx talks, or even if it's like a round table or something, because I just like to repeatedly remind myself that like they were also someone that didn't know what they were doing, and you just figure it out. And like everyone does, like as much as you think that everyone has their shit together. Like I was listening to the How I Built This week from the diapers.com founder, and he was buying diapers for regular price at Costco and selling them on his website for the exact same price. An investor came up to him and asked him, so let me get this straight, you're selling $1 for 85 cents?
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone's just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, winging it. That's bad. That's great, man. I mean, I think it's incredibly inspiring what you've built, because it's not the, set up an internet business or what the number of variables that have to come together to get this to somebody's door is incredibly like impressive and hard to wrangle. So hats off, man. It's really impressive. Can you talk a little bit about we've got about 8 minutes left, but you mentioned retail, James, in your last piece. Like, how has that gone down, and what's your how are you thinking about that in the future? Is that like you mentioned Shark Tank as well, and I know that's always the pitch to the consumable brands. It's like, I can get you into here and here, right? And that's gonna guarantee X.
Retail is a really interesting space in the CBD food and beverage world right now, because the big box stores and brands are not touching CBD. So like you can't get into Whole Foods or Walmart or Target or whatever, or Kroger's. And that's usually how a food brand would measure that they made it. That's the goal, is you get into Publix and you're in like 1,000 accounts. We don't even have that opportunity, but the opportunity that we do have is these independent stores on the ground that Alvaro, who's crushing it right now down in Miami, is just going door to door with boxes of cold brew in his Jeep and selling it to them. And the way we see that long term is like, we want to build like a grassroots, I guess some brand equity with those stores, so that when the floodgates open up to Publix and Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, we'll be on the ground. We'll be the CBD coffee company that they look at. So basically, like, win the race before it starts.
Do you remember? Maybe they still do this, but Red Bull used to have those custom minis with the can in the back.
Yeah, they still have those.
When I was at university in the UK, they'd give like 5 minis out to people on campus, and they would drive around. Like, it feels very much like that to me. Like, you could build a real like culture and movement behind a product like this. So yeah, it feels really cool, and I'm glad we found it.
We should get a wrap for your Jeep, Alvaro. Jibby Jeep.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I've thought about it.
These colors would lend themselves great to a Jeep. Take the doors off. Well, you have nothing to stick the logo on if you took the doors off, but it feels very Miami.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, for the retail side of things, it's crazy how quickly you learn. It's like quick ideation. You go to your first account, and like I happened to be there with James, so I had someone like giving me feedback afterward, and I gave her the pitch, and I was like, I crushed it. And then afterward, James was like, you never even said your name. I was like, fucking right. And I'm like, it's like kind of like, all right, say your name. Where are you from? Why does it matter to them? Like, I was giving them the pitch I'd give to consumers. Like, it was like, you ever get jitters when drinking coffee? And it's like, they don't care. They just want to know that it sells. They want to know that it's selling like crazy where you're already at, and it'll sell like crazy here, and you'll do everything you can to make sure it sells like crazy here.
Sampling
and
events,
it's crazy because
like,
for us,
sending people there. Yeah.
Are these stores that you're getting it into now? You said they're independent, but they're like little grocery stores, and they put it in the fridge as singles, or you selling 6-packs in there? How is that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pretty much singles, like grab and go. It's actually interesting because online, right, like, it doesn't make any sense for us to sell singles, but because this is such a new product category, I think there's a lot of hesitation for people to try, just because it's so brand new, and either you get the idea right away and you're on board, or you're like, CBD and coffee, like, that sounds kind of contradictory, but I would, maybe they would pick one up if it were at the store. So like, getting that trial is really big for us in store, in person. Like, we've had a lot of customers online say that they found us first on the shelf, because that gives them the opportunity to spend only $6 on an impulse purchase instead of on the website for $36 for a whole 6-pack, and have a big commitment.
I've got an email. I got to intro you to this guy that he runs some performance beverage brand, and they had this like really smart marketing tactic where they send a free fridge to gyms. So they say, if you order this amount of product, we'll give you a fridge. And they send this branded fridge and put 200 cans in it. And then obviously after that, they just subscribe for to get the fridge filled back up. But I won't forget that. I'll send you an email intro to that. But
Cool.
thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This was really fun, honestly. I'm usually not a morning person at all. Alvaro will attest to that, but this was a blast.
You guys dropped knowledge. Definitely.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
So inspiring. Hopefully, I think a lot of value for everybody here. So thanks for coming on. Keep doing what you're doing. It's badass.
Thanks, Jack.
Keep drinking the coffee. Thanks, Jack.
I will do. We'll do. Cheers, boys.
Later. Thank you guys all for
See
coming.
you guys.
Take it easy. Thank you.